Okay, so we're going to start off with some business to attend to. I know that there are some sound issues with the recordings from Monday night. So what happened with Monday night's recording is I actually, instead of posting the actual recording from Monday night's webinar, I went ahead and re-recorded 2 webinars. You could call them, I guess, just recordings on my computer. One for people that had the old download of Minecraft Pi, the one where they went to a website to download it. And then another recording for those who had the new one, the one that used the terminal commands alone to download Minecraft. And we've been referring to those 2 camps as people with the MC Pi folder and people without the MC Pi folder. There was some audio issues with those recordings, and those I have fixed one, and I'll fix the other tonight. I'm so sorry about those issues, and I appreciate your patience with that. There are several people, so if you fall into this category, please don't feel like you are alone. There are several people that are having trouble with Minecraft Pi. And that's probably in part due to the nature of the activity. It's challenging. And it's definitely in part due to the fact that we're running several versions of Minecraft, and I will take some of the responsibility for that as well. But I want people to get the opportunity to get it to work. So this weekend, I'm going to hold an optional time to come and ask questions, and I'll be there for an hour on Sunday from 3 to 4 p.m. And if I'm going to post that on Edmodo as well. You can message me if that time is not good for you, and if you have individual questions, I can try to answer those either in a recording or I can try to communicate with you one-on-one. Okay, so I just want you guys to know, I'm here. I want you guys to get Minecraft to work, and I apologize for any frustrations that you're having. I know some people that have it working are really enjoying it. Amira has been posting some great advice, so that's wonderful. And let me just check my questions here. Thank you, Mira. I am doing very well. Thank you for asking. I am looking forward to starting the 3D printing unit. So, in summary, Monday's recording had an audio issue. It's being fixed. This weekend, if you are free from 3 to 4, please join me for an optional webinar for those having some trouble in Minecraft or are interested in learning more to do in Minecraft Pi. And from now, moving forward, we're going to be learning about 3D printing. I think that covers everything. So I will post that information on Edmodo. And I'm also going to post, see how I have slides here? I can make a PDF version of these slides. So I'll make a PDF version of the Minecraft slides so that you can go through the slides at your own pace as well. Good, I'm seeing a lot of excitement about 3D printing, which I love. Someone is asking, are we going to print things today? Is that possible? We are not going to print things today, but we will print things in this class. I'm just hearing from Mr. Dubik right now. We're going to try to set it up so that you guys can actually watch via webcam from the 3D printer that Mr. Dubik has in his lab. And he says that you guys will also print stuff in person in upcoming labs. So some things to look forward to there. Today we're going to go through an introduction to what 3D printing actually is and what the future of 3D printing is. And then we're going to practice what's called 3D modeling. So if you want to print cool things in 3D, you first have to learn how to model them. So we're gonna take a look at that. What kinds of things can we make? Lots of different things. Really the big thing is size restriction and the kind of material you have. So right off the bat, a lot of people want to make like a phone case. That's a really big request. Well, the issue with phone cases, you have to make it the exact right size so that the phone can fit inside the case without you really having to use, since you don't have the ability to use kind of a rubbery, bendy material. If you take a look at the plastic that most phone cases are made of, even if they're hard-shelled phone cases, there's some give to them. So the kinds of 3D printers that an individual group, like Young Engineers of Today, has, they are state of the line for personal 3D printers, but they're not industrial 3D printers that you do have the capability of printing rubbery things. But we'll get to that explanation in a little bit. Ooh, okay, hold on. Mira, I will absolutely post extra things for you to do in Minecraft Pi, and thank you for that reminder. I will do that. A creeper, I have seen people print creepers. That's absolutely an option, and I think a narwhal would be pretty darn cool. You do not need your Raspberry Pi tonight. You do not need your Raspberry Pi tonight. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So 3D printing, here's some examples of some really, really small scale models that were printed with a 3D printer, just kind of some desk models. And we're going to start off, before we get into the explanation and some major fields 3D printing is being used to, and some cool examples of what's going on in the 3D printing world. This is a picture of a duck that got fitted with a prosthetic leg that was the actual, they scanned his other leg and made an exact replica and kind of inversed it so it would be his left foot because he has a right foot. And there's some really cute videos of him hobbling around on his prosthetic leg. But a vet just found a way where he could print out this prosthetic leg for this duck to have. I thought that was a pretty cool example. Here is an example of something that is maybe a little bit more, it's a little bit more usable on a widespread scale. So this is a jaw that someone could use as an implant if something happens to their jaw. For example, if they had a bone cancer in their face and they had to have their jaw removed, which can happen. So this is a 3D printed jaw with a set of teeth that actually grinds in. And what's cool about 3D printed prosthetics, whether it be a duck's foot or a new jaw, is that you can scan the person's face or the duck's leg and make an exact specimen for that person that's individualized, as opposed to just using a general form of jaw, or maybe one out of 5 different sizes. You're making the exact jaw for your face. And that's true with prosthetics for humans as well. This is a big movement in the prosthetic leg and prosthetic arm manufacturing. You're able to make the shape mirror your other limbs. So this fits the shape of what that person's leg was. And also you're able to add kind of a cool or unique style. So these are all things that were printed with a 3D printer. And you can see it's different materials. 3D printing is also used in the jewelry industry and the clothing industry. And you'll see this. This is actually a bracelet that is available or was available on the online store Etsy. And it allows people to come up with these really cool designs that would be very expensive to hand make out of metal. And they're able to print it for much cheaper and have their designs be available to a wider market because of that. I thought these were cool because they were such a different material from most things that you imagine being 3D printed. The soles of these shoes are 3D printed from Nike. Those are real shoes. And they allow you to customize what your shoes actually look like. And, the shape of it as well. Okay, so what is 3D printing? Now that we've seen a few examples to hopefully get us excited about 3D printing, it's not just printing little keychains. It's a really cool phenomenon that's changing the way we make things in the world. So it's the idea of additive manufacturing, the process of making a 3D solid object of almost any shape from a digital model. How does it work? The basic process is that you design a shape using a 3D modeling software. You send that shape to the printer, and then layer by layer, it assembles your shape. So let's see what that looks like here. Up at the top, you'll see this mug that someone made using a 3D modeling software. This mug, and this is the mesh form of that mug. And that just means that's what, this is like a rendered version that looks nice with graphics. And this is almost like, imagine wrapping, almost like a cellophane or something like that all the way around the shape that you just made, the 3D shape. And that's the mesh. It encloses the 3D volume. And that's the information that gets sent to the printer. And the printer cuts up that file, that 3D file, into many, 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 many slices. And then if you see down here, it starts with the bottom slice. And then it prints that bottom slice. And then actually the floor of the machine moves down a little bit, and it prints out the next slice. The floor of the machine moves down a little bit, and it prints off the next slice. And we're going to see this in action in just a little bit. But it all starts with the CAD software, which means computer-aided design. That's what you guys are going to be starting today, or next Monday. So that's the way that using kind of this plasticky material, that's what you guys are going to be doing, where the plastic is kind of melted and applied layer by layer. I wanted to show this as well. This is using metals, actually. So for this one, it's a similar process in the beginning, except here it's showing you can actually take an original object, basically take a scan of that object to get this 3D object. So they took an original object and basically took a 3D scan so that a digital drawing of it existed. The software again cut it into slices, but this time instead of plastic being layered one layer at a time, this time it's powder, and then a laser, it's a metal powder, and a laser melts the powder together, forming a solid. So that's how, when we see the metal objects that are being made by 3D printing, that's the process for that. So this is distinct because it's an additive process as opposed to a subtractive process. That means we're building, and there's very little waste. Every kind of bit of material that we need, we use. There's no waste. And let's take a look at what traditional subtractive process. This is how, for many, many, many years, everything was made. You started with a large block. You chipped away any of the pieces that you didn't need, and you were left with a big pile of scrap. That's how, think about giant marble statues. That's how those were made. In this case, you simply layer by layer build exactly your shape that was designed online. So you don't end up using any excess material. You don't end up with piles of scrap. I'm going to pause here. Are there any questions so far? Oh yes, Annika. I'm not sure if Nike had. I'm going through questions right now, and Annika asked, "Wait, can you buy those shoes?" I'm not sure if Nike has them available right now, but they were an idea they were toying around with. We can look it up at the end of class. Also, many people think the duck is very cute, so we're definitely going to have to look up a picture of the duck walking. The duck just stands up and starts walking like nothing is wrong. You know, has only had one leg for so long and just pops up and waddles along. It's very cute. Wow, one of our classmates, Maya, sells jewelry on Etsy. That is very cool. Can you actually drink out of the 3D printed mug? That is a great question. So there are things that are very safe to actually eat. You can 3D print food that come out of a 3D printer, but then there are some things that you wouldn't want to eat out of. Like you wouldn't want to eat out of the materials that you print in this camp or eat off of those materials. But if they're actually 3D printing a mug for use, then they would make it with a safe material. Yes, Caitlin, you're going to print stuff in lab. You're also going to design stuff in class that you're going to print. Good. Yeah, there are some colors, but from my experience, young engineers of today, it's kind of randomized which color your object is. Caitlin, we're not working on Minecraft. No, this class is kind of half Raspberry Pi, half 3D printing. We needed to move on to the 3D printing unit, but this weekend I'm going to host an optional webinar for those who have questions about Minecraft. Oh, good. Okay, no worries. Okay, we're going to keep on going. Okay, so traditional manufacturing, that subtractive process, a lot of times, it's not actually chipping away marble. You might have a mold or you might be forging something. And then, of course, the subtracting, the grinding, the cutting. These have always been, these have been used in the past. You can use a lot of different materials with this. And you can make it as big as you need to. And the big advantage is that you're able to make lots and lots of it, of items very, very quickly. Like if you're making shower rings, yes, there's a lot of setup involved in order to mold those shower rings from plastic. But once you have your factory kind of set up, you can make thousands, if not tens of thousands of shower rings every day. Whereas if you wanted to 3D print a shower ring, all you would need to do is make a little 3D model of a shower ring. That wouldn't take you very long. And then you would just need a 3D printer, no special tools other than a 3D printer. You wouldn't have to make a special mold for it. And you wouldn't be wasting extra plastic. You could make that shower ring as cool or as interesting as you wanted. You wouldn't have to wait to build all of this machinery to manufacture it, but it would take a long time to print each shower ring. You wouldn't, using today's 3D printing technology, it would be much harder to mass produce. You could make individualized shower rings. You guys could actually, if you wanted to, do that in this class, but you wouldn't be able to sell tens of thousands of just plain shower rings easily. And I liked this prediction additive manufacturing could reduce energy use by 50% and reduce material costs by up to 90% compared to traditional manufacturing. That's because you're very, very efficient with additive manufacturing. You're doing exactly, you're making exactly the right shape. You're not doing anything extra and then shaving it away. So there's actually several different kinds of 3D printing. And the difference comes in how the layers are assembled together. The first kind of 3D printing, this was actually the first kind of 3D printing that was invented. And 3D printing actually goes back a really, really long time. It was just that, and we're going to look at the history in just a moment, it was just that we didn't have computers at that point that were powerful enough, and enough people didn't have computers that were powerful enough to do the 3D modeling. So we're not going to go through exactly how each different kinds of 3D printing is, is different from the other. This is SLA. The next kind that was made is called fused deposition modeling. This is the oldest. Nothing super interesting about this one. The fused deposition modeling was the second newest. It's very good for very sturdy things. It's durable. It's functional. It's sterile. You can use it for food and drug and sterilization. High performance. So this is for you can actually manufacture tools, like real things that people are going to actually use. You can use the fused deposition modeling. And you can make things that are really, really big as well. Much bigger than actually what's being shown here. We're going to see someone that built a car. That would be using something like fused deposition modeling. And then this is the last thing. It's actually not called Objet PolyJet. That's just a specific printer. But this is more similar to what this kind of 3D printing that we are doing, where it's more for prototyping. And by that I mean it's quicker, and the things that you create are kind of thinner plastics. All right. And you don't need to memorize all the different kinds of 3D printing, but I did want to show that there are separate kinds of 3D printing, and if you're going to be printing something in metal, or if you're going to be printing something that needs to be super durable, or, for instance, if you're going to be printing something that is going to be inside of a human body, these are things that have to be considered. It's not all just one program for 3D printing. So we're going to go through the history, and we'll get back to this picture in just a moment. In 1984, Chuck Hull invents stereolithography, SLA, and that's the first example of 3D printing that I showed you. That was all the way back in 1984. So 3D printing is a recent phenomenon in just how much it has taken off and how much it has evolved in the last few years. But the concept is old, and it's actually older than the 1980s. People were thinking about additive processing before that point, or additive production before the 80s. But just the issue was computer power. Now we are all going to be using Tinkercad and Google SketchUp on the computers, just at your house, your personal computers. But back then, 3D modeling was something that only the best computers could do. And definitely not your personal computer. Definitely not PCs. In 1990, we have the next kind that I showed you, the FDM, fused deposition modeling, and that's in 1990 it's commercialized. So originally someone invented it but wasn't selling it, just had come up with the concept really. In 1999, And here we just see some scientific applications of 3D printing. Someone prints scaffolding for a new bladder and then grows cells on it. We're going to see some medical repercussions of 3D printing in just a moment. The first functional animal kidney is printed. What they're doing with organs is incredibly cool with 3D printing. RepRap in 2005 created the first source printer that can replicate itself, and the fact that it is a free and open source printer is huge. That means that not only did they develop a printer that could print a new printer, but they made the plans available for anyone who wanted it. They didn't say, try to keep it a secret and copyright it so that no one else could do that. They were a big part of the open source movement, so that in 3D printing in general, it plays a large role in the open source movement, and we'll talk about that. But they weren't trying to keep their information and their findings secret. They let anyone who wants to know the plans for their 3D printer, it's available. In 2010, the first human blood vessel is printed. In 2014, a woman becomes the world's first recipient of a 3D printed skull transplant. Very amazing. And just last year, a Chinese company figures out how to 3D print 2,000 square feet houses, and we'll take a look at that in just a moment. I'm going to jump off for a minute and see if we have any pressing questions. Cute, that cute. I agree. Was the hand in that picture 3D printed? The hand? Oh, no, I don't. Yes, that is a prosthetic hand. That was 3D printed. I have heard of the 3D doodler. That thing is weird, but that is cool. Which style of 3D printing will we be using? Great question, Mira. We are using, I think, STL is the name of the file that we use. And we're using the STL file format. And Mira, I don't know. I would need to ask Mr. Dubik. I know that the STL is the name of our file format, but I don't know if that's technically still SLA, or stereolithography. I don't think it's fused deposition modeling. And recently, a professor from UNC, Chapel Hill, invented a new kind of 3D printing that's 100 times faster than our current 3D printers, which is very neat. It's a completely new way of doing it. All right, Caitlin has a question, so I'm going to call on her. Hey, Caitlin.
How do you 3D print a 2,000 square foot house?
We're going to see how in just a moment, but imagine having a big bag of cement instead of plastic that you're printing out of a little nozzle. Like you're putting icing on a cake, except your arm is really big and you're squeezing cement out in the shape of a house. So we'll see it in just an example. Great question. Yes, you can print a little cat statue, absolutely. Yes, it's really, really amazing that people are 3D printing body parts, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. Oh, cool. Okay. I will show what a 3D doodler is in just a moment. Hold on. Let's continue. So this is Chuck Hull. He is the father of 3D printing, and there he is, I think, painting a 3D model of him. I just liked that picture. And he also invented the file format that we are still using today for 3D printing, the STL file format. So that means he invented a way to chop up 3D models into layers. Very, very smart man. And this was RepRap, that printer I was talking about, that can print a fully working version of itself. The designs are free to share and use, including the design of the machine itself, which is awesome. It's following this open source movement, allowing other people to see your ideas so that you can advance ideas much faster, instead of holding on to your ideas so that you can make money. And RepRap is not a not-for-profit business. They still make money. It's part of this movement where there's a share of information within a market. So Lego actually has released all of their Lego blocks as STL files, so you can print your own Legos. You know, which seems like a dangerous move for Lego, but they joined into this open source community, this open source community feel. And Lego is still making plenty of money. You know, it's this kind of this risk, but it's the idea that if we work together, the community can be stronger. And you know, RepRap still does the designing and the improving, and it does what it does best still, and so they're still able to operate as a company that way. So this is a picture of what a 3D printed 3D printer looks like. Notice that not every part is 3D printed. Some of these metal screws, for example, and the metal track are not 3D printed, but most of it, from the gears to this casing that holds on to the printer head, are all 3D printed using a RepRap machine. And devices continue to get smaller, faster, cheaper, and cheaper. And I want to add to this, they're continuing to get more powerful, and they offer more diversity in the materials you can print with. Okay, so let's look at some more examples. These are just some cool pictures of 3D printed objects. There's that jaw again. What's neat is that 3D printing and 3D modeling in general allows you, if you are a math nerd like I'm a math nerd, to appreciate the physicality of math. So you can look at these really complicated relationships that make beautiful patterns that we see in nature, and you can actually model those and then print them. And these wonderful geometric objects. This is a casing for a guitar. It just allows, 3D printing allows you to add a lot of personality to an object, where it would be really hard for someone before, if they didn't have a 3D printer to make this, they would have to kind of mold their own plastic. Well, with a 3D printer, a powerful 3D printer, you would just take the design for a normal guitar and alter it or modify it. And if you can see, there's actually a spider inside the guitar. Several, which is really neat. Alright, so this is our first major example. This guy, this very happy gentleman here, is sitting in the base of a 3D printed car. And here is the print head as it's actually working. This is the 3D printed car. It is fully functioning, and it was 3D printed in 44 hours. So let's take a look at some footage from that. yes, you can print a horse model. Tuck Hall is a very awesome person. Yes. I should say, I don't think Lego has put all of their Lego designs online, but most of the basic ones. Yeah, you can print a Lego. Great, okay, wonderful. Let's watch this. We're not going to watch the full video, but I just wanted to show you part, at least, of this 3D printed car. Caitlin, I see your hand, so I'll call on you in just a minute. Oh. Alright, I don't know what happened to our video there. Let's see if it's... The little ad was there. Maybe we can just... And I do want to point out, the engine, seats, and steering wheel were not 3D printed. It would be very difficult to 3D print an engine. Ah! Alright ladies, I apologize. I'll post the video to Edmodo. It's really neat to sit there and watch the 3D printer working on this car. But, so the tires, the seats, and the engine, those were not 3D printed, but the whole kind of hull of the car was. And I believe once it was finished with 3D printing, they sanded and painted it. So it looks really nice and shiny. They had to do some work on that. And that's true with most 3D models. When yours actually prints out, there will be some kind of extra wisps of plastic, and we have tools there for you to kind of clip and sand your model. And you can see the side there where it's kind of the different layers of it being printed. Ooh. Oh, okay, Caitlin. Oh, Caitlin, no worries. No need to apologize. I'm not sure, Maya, how many items you're going to get to print. I'd have to ask Mr. Dubik about that, but I think it's more than one. And there are limitations on the size of the objects that you can print, that we can print in this class. But yes, there are 3D printers that can build giant houses, so they could definitely print a statue. But right now, we're going to talk about something very, very, very small. We're going to talk about lots of different ways that 3D printing is being used in medicine. The way that you can see right here, this is a doctor that is holding a baby's heart. And the baby was born with a defect in its heart. And what the doctors were able to do was to take a 3D imaging test on the baby. So I don't know if you've seen this before, but they're able now with different devices and different scans to take 3D images of the body parts that are still inside your body. You can see that some people get 3D images of their like fetus when an ultrasound. You can get a 3D ultrasound. So that's what the doctors did. I believe it was an ultrasound, or maybe CAT scan. They got a 3D image of the heart of the baby, and they were able to use that 3D image and print it. And so they were able to actually physically hold the heart. Now, let me be clear. This heart was not made out of heart material. It was made out of plastic. But what was good is that the doctors were able to, I think it was made out of like a kind of a spongy plastic, something that would be similar to a muscle, so that the doctors were able to print out multiple and practice on the heart, and also just to get a better understanding of what it looked like. I think they were able to print out one that was very magnified. And so This is just one example, but this is being done a lot. People are printing out images of brains that, maybe it has a tumor in the brain, and they're able to practice and look at the way that that everything is shaped, and it helps them to have a better understanding when they go into surgery to know what to expect. So really wonderful. And there's actually a lot of medical repercussions, and we're going to be talking about a lot of them here. This is a prosthetic hand. Now, one thing I want to talk about with things like this and with things like the prosthetic hand, you have teams of people working together, and that's really what engineers do. They have you'll have a doctor there. You'll have someone that's very good at 3D modeling. You'll have someone that's an expert at 3D printing. For prosthetics, you'll have someone that's a mechanical engineer, someone that is a biomechanical engineer, and a medical engineer, all working together. So what's neat about this prosthetic hand is that I believe it is this one, it's able to flex based on, it's able to communicate to the brain. So there's a way when it is attached to the person's arm, it has these sensors that attach to the muscles in the upper arm. So when that muscle contracts, even though that person is only using a prosthetic arm, their prosthetic arm will also squeeze. There are lots of videos of this, so I can show that to you. So what's the 3D printing isn't what's allowing the prosthetic arm to actually squeeze, but what's cool is that not only would someone get a fully functioning prosthetic arm, it would be cheaper to make since it's printed and they didn't have to make a mold of that arm first. Imagine being a child that was born without arm or had an accident and that wanted to use a prosthetic arm. There are many people that don't want to use a prosthetic arm, which is absolutely fine, but that you did want that. Well, there would be many prosthetic arms that you would have to go through since you're growing. Well, that's what 3D printing, that's what makes 3D printing so excellent. You're able to keep the mechanics the same and just change out the shell. And that, since you're able to make a model, you can make it look exactly like your other hand, but inverse. So it can look like just one seamless part of your body. And when we get the video of the duck at the end of class, I'll show you a picture of someone with a 3D printed prosthetic limb that functions. Can anyone guess? I've been talking for a while. Can anyone guess what this is? Yeah, that heart was 3D printed. Hey, Caitlin.
Can anyone guess what that is? Wait, never mind. I don't know what it is.
Oh, okay. Does anyone guess what that is? It's not a prosthetic arm. A cast. Oh, I'm getting lots of guesses. It's a cast. This is taking vital signs. Someone asked that. It's a cast. And actually, what's cool about this, it breathes so that your arm wouldn't get itchy and you'd be able to bathe. It fits your arm perfectly. And best of all, it would actually heal your bone faster because it's harder and it fits exactly over your arm. So this is a prototype for a fully functioning cast for, let's say, you break your arm. Water resistant, super sturdy, absolutely fits your arm, and looks pretty neat as well. Here's our 3D printed housing. So this is in China, and to the right you'll see what the process looks like, and to the left you'll see what the 3D printed house actually appears in the outside. And I do have a video of this that I would like to show because it's just a neat concept. How would you get the cast off? Maya, that's a great question. I think I don't think that the cast was 3D printed on his arm. There must be like hinges on the side. There was a way it got on his arm. So you would take it off the same way. It would be kind of nerve-wracking to have your arm in the 3D printer machine too. Okay, let's see what's going on with YouTube. There we go. I believe the wires on the cast.
These buildings behind me were
let's
not
watch
built
this.
in the normal fashion, but were actually printed out by a 3D printer. This printing method was developed by private inventors.
The 10 standalone one-story houses look normal at first sight, but the walls are made up of layers of construction waste and cement instead of brick and mortar. However, technological limitations prevented the building's roofs from.
So I want to go back so you can see that. If you heard him, they don't actually have to use new material for these houses. It's made with construction waste that was broken down and made into cement. So it's actually very good for the environment as well. What's cool about the idea of 3D printed houses is that you would be able to bring one of these giant 3D printers, and they're huge, they're not easy to bring around, but you'd be able to bring one to a place that just had a natural disaster. So instead of after, for instance, let's say like a tsunami, instead of everyone living in tents during a season where there's actually a lot of storms, you would be able to 3D print houses, or 3D print physical structures. And instead of having to bring in all of the materials, they would be able to use local sediment, local rocks, local seashells to make the houses themselves. And this is what it looks like. This arm goes back and forth. This one goes left and right. And this tall arm goes kind of up and down. And in that way it can move anywhere inside of this box. And it's 3D printing the wall there, a room inside the building.
However, technological limitations prevented the building's roofs from being printed. The buildings will serve as offices at a high-tech industrial park in Shanghai. We visited the company's workshop in Shanghai's neighboring city of Suzhou to find out precisely how the buildings were printed. The walls are primarily made out of material refined from construction waste and mixed with cement. The wall structure was scrupulously designed to ensure soundness and practicality. The printer used to make the walls was designed and made by inventor Ma Yi. His company and research center.
If you see this, these are different kinds of walls that the 3D printer can print.
Are all made up.
Like this is what they can look like as the final product.
3D printed walls. It took about a month for him to build his office.
So I think the one on the left was the unfinished wall, but they can, put these kind of stuff. I imagine it's either sanding or putting up almost like a shell around the unfinished walls. No, that cast is not rubber. It's really hard. I think that, I'm not sure. I can look up how that cast works though. Yeah, you could use the remains of the old houses. Well, that's really smart. You can use the remains of old houses to build the new houses, or seashells. Oh, okay. We're not gonna watch the New Face, New Life, but I can show you guys a picture. It's just from some of the pictures are like a little kind of shocking to see. Here, I'm gonna pause real fast. Let me go to this one. and find the duck since we only have 8 minutes. So I can explain what happened with the 3D printed face. This man was, I believe, in an accident, and here we go. And I'll show you here. And he basically had a hole in his face, and like a very large hole that you could see straight through his face. And this made life very difficult for him. Kind of everywhere he went, he would get stares. And so they were able to 3D print a replica of his face. See how it looks just like his face. And if you look at this material here, they actually grafted it into his skin. So it's kind of, this part isn't skin or anything. It's a mask, but it's actually grafted onto his face. So, you know, really cool. I mean, changing lives in a way that you would never be able to, except for like a very good artist would be able to do that. But this is kind of much more widely available for people, because you can currently use a scanner and 3D print your likeness. That's like a very popular thing to do. Let me find the duck. And this is our duck friend. This actually might be a different duck. Oh yeah, that's the prototype. That's the final one, designed and modeled in CAD, just like you guys are going to do. Got a grip bottom. A little spring. Hundreds of hours of drawing and testing to create this foot. Wow. Bottom tread, hinged ankle, plastic support springs. Ooh. Man, they like this duck a lot. All right, show me Buttercup. Let's go. So this is the 3D foot being printed. And this is what's actually happening. So let me explain. This plate is very, very, very hot. And so is the material coming out of the tip of this. And that is the reason that they do that, is so that the foot won't melt to the surface here. So this is called the print head, and it's able to move across this axis here, and it's able to move left and right, and it's going to print a layer, and then this heated plate is going to drop a little bit, and this print head is going to print another layer. So that's the foot being printed layer by layer. Six hours. 3D printers are not very fast. But this is also a very special, they printed this in high resolution, which means lots of detail. And that's how the pieces are all going to fit together. There it is.
Mom, you do it. Turn your big foot. Mom, you do it.
Look at that duck! Buttercup!
Buttercup, how's that? Come here, boy. Come get Teddy. Come on. How's that
Teddy
foot?
bear.
Come on. Come on. Come on.
Look how happy he is.
Come get Teddy. Come get Teddy. Come here. Keep going. Where are you going, Buttercup? Come on. Come on. Come on. You going to see Minnie? You going to see Minnie?
I hope you guys enjoyed that uplifting story as much as I did. Let me look. Whoa, okay. Sure, I will. Someone has requested that they post a challenge in Scratch. So I can post a challenge in Scratch, absolutely. I will put this on Edmodo, and I hope everyone has a really nice evening. We'll continue learning more about 3D printing and then get started in Tinkercad, where you guys will be making your own 3D shapes in order to print them. So again, this Sunday, 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. is an optional Minecraft webinar. Sorry, that word was escaping me. Optional Minecraft webinar this Sunday, 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Come if you have questions, come if you want an extra challenge. Ella has requested that I make a studio on Scratch and I post a challenge. I will do that. Tinkercad is not on your Pis because it's a website. So you can access it on your Pis, but it's not an application. And so Ella, I will work on making a studio in Scratch. Everybody have a wonderful evening, a wonderful weekend. I will see you on Sunday. And I'm glad you enjoyed Buttercup. We will make a class studio. It will be done.